All right, we're in the green room, and we're wondering if ChatGPT 5 will take over the world before ChatGPT 4 is out. Just kidding. No, we're back here. We got some great folks today. We're going to go in reverse order and talk about what's happening. So, Andy, where are you calling in from, dialing in? What are we talking about today?
From Boston, Massachusetts, the intellectual capital of the world. We want to talk about things of AI.
All right, cool. And we got a recent blog post that's very, very interesting about pauses on AI. Nitin, Tom, let's go with Nitin. Tell us where you're coming in from, what we're talking about, and we'll go to Tom.
Well, I'm from Newton, Massachusetts as well. I won't repeat the same comment as Andy, but certainly, happy to talk about everything that's happening in the world of AI in businesses and enterprises in particular.
Very cool. Tom, what about you? Coming in from where? And of course, talking about your new book that you wrote with Nitin.
Yeah, coming in from Santa Barbara this time of year, Boston when it's a little brighter and warmer, and happy to talk about our book, All In on AI, which is about companies that are really aggressive in their use of AI and getting great value out of it.
Very, very cool. Not from Boston. Where are you coming in from, Behshad?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm calling from Zurich, Switzerland, and we'll be talking about conversational AI, generative AI. That's what I'm doing at Google.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, hey, back to you, Elle, as we kick off the show.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests your questions live using #DisrupTV, and we'll do our best to answer them. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He is the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Ray's a regular television business and tech news contributor on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg, CNBC, just about every day I see him on TV. In my opinion, he's one of the best futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of The Pursuit of Social Business Excellence. Executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. And when he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and posting insightful analyses on ZDNet. But more importantly, he may be up to something new, but we'll talk about that another time. But it's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And who do we have to kick it off today on such a boring and uninteresting topic?
Yeah. It's our pleasure to have Behshad Behzadi, Vice President of Engineering for Conversational AI at Google Cloud. Behshad is a distinguished computer scientist with expertise in algorithms, web search ranking, natural language understanding, speech recognition, and machine learning. Behshad leads Google Cloud's conversational AI, focusing on applying Google's latest advancements in AI to reimagine and automate functions like customer service and operations for large enterprises. Behshad joined Google in 2006 and has played a key role in Google's AI strategy as co-founder of Google Assistant, Google Lens, Google SMA Display, and more recently, the Next Gen Assistant, a breakthrough in mobile assistant technology with on-device machine learning for lightning fast experience. Welcome, Behshad, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much. So excited to be with you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, we're so happy to have you here. I see you every year at Davos. I see you at other places. You've been speaking on this. You've been working on conversational AI for quite some time, right? And we think about the beginnings of conversational AI from Eliza all the way in the 50s to now. I mean, this technology has really changed. What have you seen happen in the last decade that really gets you excited, that says, wow, we are here?
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a great point. The main thing that you're seeing is change. Everything has changed in the past 10 years. So, conversational AI is really about making, a conversation between human and machine to become like, human and human. And for that, you want speech recognition, voice recognition to work. You want speech generation to be natural, and you want that natural language understanding to work good. And all of those have made big breakthroughs in the past 10 years. So first of all, let's talk about speech. On the speech side, 5-6 years ago, you could, in a noisy environment, speech might have been not working, or you needed to repeat yourself. Accents, children, elderly had problems to talk with machines. And now the newest speech recognition from our research about a month ago reaching 98% accuracy. Wow. This is, for English, this is like, really, getting really in a very usable state. Speech generation, the generated voice are now really getting indistinguishable from human voice. And you can generate someone's voice just by, using, a few seconds or few minutes of that person's voice. You can generate the voice, which is really sounds very, very similar to that. And the third pillar is really about natural language understanding. If before we were really working on, grammars and linguists, to try to come up with rules and what should happen in a particular state of a conversation, and spend really months and years. Now we're really talking about the next level of understanding. System, today's the systems can explain what a joke is. This is, why a joke is funny. And in order to be able to explain why a joke is funny, this is not about understanding the words. It's really understanding much more of, nuances which exist between the words and the concepts and everything which is, in the language. This now we can have models which can explain problems. They solve the problem, but they also say how step by step they are solving it. They can even solve, world-class programming competition problems. So from understanding, we're reaching to the intelligence. So speech, spoken as audio, and this level of understanding together is reaching a level which is basically things which were not possible before, today are possible.
It's amazing too. When I hear you say all of this, I'm wondering when Ray's going to replace me with a bot that sounds like me on this show. So I'm nervous, but
OG, man, OG. We're only going with the OG.
We most of us have seen your 2017 TED Talk, where you not warned the audience, but this is 6 years ago, and you said, "Look, we're entering an AI first revolution." You talked about the cloud revolution and the web giving birth to the internet companies, and the mobile revolution with the smartphone. And you're on stage 6 years ago on a TED Talk, and you're actually showing us how smartphones are now smart. And this was, again, 6 years ago. And you talked about, conversation being the universal UI. And now you fast forward 6 years and you see what's happening with generative AI. And everything you were saying not only happened, but it's happening even faster than you could imagine. Can you talk to us about this landscape and how you were like this amazing futurist 6 years ago, predicting all this stuff that's happening now? And now that you're here, what are you thinking is going to happen another 6 years from now?
Thank you. No, for sure. I think generative AI is bringing everything to the next level. Just to talk about it, generative AI is, was all based on these large language models, right? And large language models are models which are built based on lots of data, and they can solve lots of problems which they have not seen before. Traditionally, we make a machine learning model for solving one problem. These days, these models can solve lots of problems. The art is how to make them solve a particular problem. They can do two things particularly very well: superhuman-like conversation, really very similar to the human, because they have seen lots of text and lots of books and everything. But also they can solve problems in some sense. They can reason in some sense and can get into problem solving in some manner. They can also generate. This is a new thing, which is these generative aspects of these large language models is bringing to us, that they can, generate text, whether it's an email, whether it's a document, whether it's a poem, whether it's a code. And this combination of these things together is unlocking, use cases which seemed science fiction before, but now it's possible. You can put this system as an interface to a complex data and try to analyze it and get insights about it. You can really up-level customer experience to become, really, very human-like, save lots of costs and so on. You can use it for creation and, for really, whether it's a marketing materials, there's sometimes, months which is passed into generating these marketing materials. Now you can just describe types of things that you want and try to get, lots of materials auto-generated, or at least, save lots of time by having, a bigger step forward there. So indeed, the speed of how things are changing in the past, 1 year at least, has been, really, bringing things to the next level here now. And I think, we will be seeing lots of disruptions across many industries, including, customer experience and customer service, of course, thanks to these advances.
I had my 12-year-old son come to me a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Dad, I'm using this tool called ChatGPT with my math homework, and it helped me understand the problem solving. So now I'm using it for my social studies." And I'm like, "What do you think about it?" And he's like, "I don't know. It feels like it's a calculator for thinking and writing." And I'm like, wow, a 12-year-old, to me, like, adoption defines the next big thing. And a 12-year-old, unsolicited, without any advice from his dad, which I kind of feel bad. I'm like, I'm a technologist. I should have guided him a little bit. He came to me. But I thought, this is pretty cool. Like, it's amazing how these digital natives are quickly looking at technologies to enhance the contextual intelligence about how they do things. And now he's using it for homework. Again, I'm hopeful that it's less of a calculator for thinking. I want him to continue to think on his own. But I was kind of proud. It was kind of a proud dad moment. Sorry, Ray. Yeah.
No, we're definitely seeing that. And LLMs are playing a role, right? Not just for kids' homework or for writing press releases or for, even doing quick searches for the people who are putting together, right? I mean, you're seeing these LLMs play a role in contact centers and in, CX and CRM. And you guys have been looking at this as well. I mean, in terms of using LLMs and AI for CX and contact centers. And I can only imagine the fun you guys are having with the knowledge bases, right? The ability to actually create automated ontologies, have them ready to go and connect. You guys have been doing a lot of work there. And I know some announcements recently. Talk about where you see that vision. And I've seen you were quoted talking about this in terms of AI contact centers and CX.
Yeah, so I think actually contact centers and customer service is really, one of the places which is will be the most disrupted, and perhaps the perfect place to be disrupted by conversational AI for different reasons. There is lots of repetitive types of tasks, and they can be, there is average handling time is often, longer than what it should be. Customer, satisfaction is not good. Agents, satisfaction is not good. So already for the past couple of years, we have been, seeing that conversational AI is trying to disrupt contact centers and call centers, trying to, automate parts of, the calls and trying to, have agents to solve the problems faster. Now, Gen AI is just going to accelerate the whole thing, to the next level again. Because with the recent announcement that we had, for example, we're now able to build those voice bots or chat bots which are automating these use cases in a matter of minutes and hours, as opposed to months and years. And that really makes things, that the people were not trying before to be tried more. They can iterate much faster and much more. It's as easy today as as connecting your enterprise document and personal document and private documents of the enterprise or the website URL to these systems, and then start asking the question. And the system, if the answer is inside those documents, will try to extract an answer. It's very important to know that when you want to use LLM for enterprise, there is many more things to be considered here. It should be safe. It should be, respecting privacy. It should be grounded. It should be, cost friendly. It should be, respecting your business logic and so on. So we also try to make defining a business logic to become very easy. So when you hire a human in a call center, you don't teach to that human how to speak English. You just will explain, this is how you should answer and solve these problems, right? So this is exactly what we want you to do with, with these AI bots. You just, for example, with a natural language, just say that first welcome, and then do this, and then do that, and this is a catalog with some explanations.
Yeah.
So human language explanation plus some very high-level business logic that you explain, plus some documentation. You give all of this to the AI system. The AI system will respect all of the business logic that you said, because this is very important. You don't want to go out. Will connect to the backends that you have so that it actually can also execute things and not only answer things. But it can also handle all nuances of languages. So if someone in the middle said, "Wait a minute, I'm going back, and wait a minute, I need a minute," it will not say, "Sorry, I don't understand." It will say, "Take your time." And when the person is back, just continues the conversation the way it was, because it can understand the context and it can continue the context. So these chatbots and voice bots are getting significantly easier to be built. So there will be much more adoption of that. And they are not only for interacting with customers, but they're also side by side with the agent. So the agent himself or herself can ask, question on demand to this chatbot, which says, how should I answer this question to this person who's calling me? Or, or proactive helps maybe, or the summarization at the end of the call, so that, again, save time and reduce cost, but also, increase the satisfaction of the users. Go ahead, please.
And we also need to stripe our data so that we don't ingest the wrong data into the LLMs. You don't want to have that situation where Samsung, you saw the live demo with their chat, the model that they're doing, where they kind of revealed like all their internal secrets by accident.
No, exactly. So it's very important. And I think lots of our investment for the past several quarters in Google Cloud has been really about, look, LLMs are really good in, problem solving, language understanding generation, but they are not enterprise ready. So you need to do much more, including, safety, security, privacy, all those, elements which I mentioned just before, that they need to be there so that you can solve these things properly. On contact centers, we also use that for the overall, insights generation. There's a continuous, these models can continuously, analyze what's going on through the calls, try to identify where else could be automated, what's the sentiment there, what's, what else I can do so that the people who are calling my call centers become happier. So I think these are all, pretty, interesting and amazing developments.
That tone and sentiment analysis in real time that can ultimately also make a decision to, escalate to a human when necessary.
Absolutely.
I think it's key. All the guardrails you mentioned. So my last question, Behshad, advice to enterprise chief customer officers who have the pressure of improving productivity and efficiency. Clearly, 2023 is going to be the year of productivity. I mean, given the cost refinements that businesses are going through. So every business leader today has pressure to do as much as possible with as little as possible. So you can't ignore this hyper automation promise of conversational AI and generative AI. So advice to a chief customer officer in the enterprise, how they should start and how they should select partners who can help them scale and grow their business effectively.
Yeah, no, great question. I think, first of all, I guess it's very important to start, right. This revolution and change is happening, so indeed you want to start with something. And I would always say that start small, try some experiment that, whether it's a simple chatbot or some creation use cases, try to just get, really start to understand, how and where you can get, benefits, and try to make your employees to also play with these things so that they can actually, generate more ideas of where in that particular organization you can generate more value. But one thing which is very important is to make sure that you're educated also about the risks which these things might have, right? So you don't want your private documents to end up being used, or private data to end up being used for improving a foundational model. So there's there is always, of course, the risks of this is a nascent technology. There can be risks of misinformation. There can be risks of toxicity. There can be all different types of damages in theory that moving fast and putting some chatbot, let's say, as a first as a forefront to your brand, which might end up making some statements which might damage your brand and so on. So make sure that as a leaders you understand what the risks are. Educate your employees what the risks are. This is very important, but certainly start experimenting now. I would try to experiment smaller, choose the smaller things as opposed to replacing everything. Also, I would say that always try to optimize for what matters most for that company or use case. It's very important to optimize for user experience, for example. Many people come to me and say that, hey, I want to replace this particular situation with a chatbot. And I say, okay, that's good, but maybe chatbot is actually, while chatbot can solve that today, but perhaps, in this case, you want to have lots of pictures and swipe them on a mobile phone and so on. So decide what's the best experience for that particular use case, and then try to, build what brings most value for the company employees in that case, or the users and customers of that company.
Terrific advice. And start. I mean, don't ignore this. Sure. This is important. Thank you. That was great. Terrific.
Yeah, no, this is great, and thank you so much. Hope we get to connect with you in the future again with more conversations about conversational AI and more. So we're with Behshad Behzadi, Vice President of Engineering, Conversational AI for Google Cloud. You can follow him on Twitter at Behshad_Behzadi. So thanks a lot for being here. Happy Friday, and till the next thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. He's been working on building Google's AI capabilities for decades, and just an amazing trailblazer. Speaking of amazing trailblazers, our next guest, and please give me an opportunity to introduce both before we start. We have Tom Davenport, Nitin Mittal, author of All In on AI, How Smart Companies Win Big with Artificial Intelligence. Tom Davenport is President, Distinguished Professor of Information Technology and Management at Babson College. I spoke at Babson a few weeks ago and I loved it. A visiting professor at Oxford University Said Business School, a fellow of the MIT Initiative on Digital Economy, and senior advisor to Deloitte's AI practice. Tom doesn't sleep. Tom pioneered the concept of competing on analytics, which is his best-selling book with the same name, and he has published over 20 books and over 300 articles. Tom has been named one of the world's top 25 consultants, top 100 most influential people in IT industry, and one of the world's top 50 business school professors by Fortune magazine. Coolest Twitter handle. You can follow him on Twitter at TDAV, D-A-V. He's an early adopter of Twitter, TDAV. Nitin Mittal is a principal at Deloitte Consulting. He currently serves as U.S. Artificial Intelligence Strategic Growth Offering Consultant Leader. He was the recipient of the AI Innovator of the Year Award at the AI Summit in New York. He has served as a trusted advisor on data analytics and AI, and has worked across a number of industry sectors. You can follow him on Twitter at nmittal analytic, NMITTALANALYTIC. Welcome, Tom and Nitin, to DisrupTV.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hey, we're so excited to have you here. And I think, we heard about being AI first. We hear about all in on AI, AI fueled. What does it mean for a business organization to be truly all in on AI? Like, what does it take, right? Is it a culture thing? Is it a technology thing? Is it the way you're set up? Start there.
All of the above. It means, you have lots and lots of use cases in place, a lot of different AI branches of technology in place, a lot of smart people, data scientists and otherwise, a lot of attention to how it's really changing your business dramatically and not just tinkering with the margins. I don't know, Nitin, you want to say some other elements?
No, actually, the point around all of the above is absolutely right. In fact, that's what we've explored in the book. It's the human side, the leadership, the culture, the work that is performed. How is that work performed? The form of activities that are undertaken, and more recognizing that every enterprise is competing in a digital economy, strives to be a digital organization, and every form of interaction with their customers is a digital interaction. And all of that is now getting powered by AI. that's the essence of essentially kind of being all in on AI that we explore in this book.
And at what point did you decide on the title? Did you go in with the thesis that this is not incremental, this isn't toe in the water, you got to dive in? So, or was it the research and identifying trailblazer companies and looking at how they're gaining market share using advanced analytics and BI and AI when you decided, no, this is an all-in approach that we must advocate for?
We were looking for them from the beginning, right, Nitin? We started out with the AI fueled term, and all in on AI had a nice sort of alliterative aspect to it. But we were looking from the beginning. Nitin knew of some from his work with Deloitte clients. I had seen some from my research and writing. We weren't sure we'd have enough to write about, but we found plenty.
Yeah, I mean, courtesy of the research that Tom has done, as well as, frankly, the state of AI in the enterprise survey that Deloitte has done globally. And there's kind of 5 editions of it that we have now published progressively through the years. There was enough material, there were enough trends that we could discern, and there were many organizations where you could, frankly, get a fairly good picture in terms of their own evolution, their own kind of maturity curve that they have been on, as well as how they have been progressing. And we were able to crystallize a lot of that in the book.
You know, you got some great case studies, right? Ping On, Airbus, Capital One, Anthem. Share a little bit of what some of those insights, because I think people would be surprised to understand that these companies are pretty advanced in how they use AI, and it takes a lot of work and in some cases a lot of like leadership to be able to be successful.
Yeah,
my favorite example is Ping An. I don't know who you want to talk about, Nitin. Go ahead if you want to.
Well, I mean, the comment I was going to make is this. The whole essence of the book and some of the underlying kind of, let's say, tenets of every single one of the companies and the case studies that are explored is that there are a few elements that are common amongst all of them. Leadership. The fact that essentially they were executives who completely believed in the fact that AI is going to not necessarily be evolutionary and incremental, but revolutionize their companies and the role of their companies in the industries that they serve in. So kind of leadership was actually important. Also, the perspective that it's not about just experimenting in the side. It's not just about a few use cases that you could essentially go build proof of concepts, but literally starting to take a look at how do you differentiate in the marketplace? How do you compete in the industry that you're in? What is the nature of the work that is actually being performed? How is that work being performed? How are you enhancing customer experience? And then consequently, how are decisions actually being, let's say, arrived at? And particularly the role of real-time insights that could be generated through machine learning or other AI algorithms, and not only generated, but also woven into the very business decision-making fabric of that organization. It's all those type of elements that truly kind of, I would say, typify these particular companies that we've actually explored.
Yeah, let me give you an example in Ping An. So this is not a company that many Americans know very well, but it's the largest private sector company in China, and only got started in the late 80s as an insurance company. But they decided that they'd have this sort of ecosystem business model. They now have 5 ecosystems added to insurance, banking, healthcare, automotive services, and smart cities. And in each one of those, they sort of partner with other providers. They gather data from consumers and those other providers. It creates what the head of AI called to me a Disneyland of data, where they're able to offer better products to their customers, and then the customers use them more and they get more data. It's this incredible virtuous circle. To me, the most outstanding example is they have a telemedicine, intelligent telemedicine product called Good Doctor, which has about 400 million customers, believe it or not. It does triage to decide whether you need to go to the doctor or not with AI. It decides on a particular diagnosis that it tells the doctor you probably have, and then it recommends a treatment strategy to the doctor as well. And there's a country that doesn't have the number of healthcare providers that it needs. It's made an enormous difference. And we sometimes get excited in the US that, wow, we can talk to our doctor over Zoom during COVID, but this is so far beyond that. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing you mentioned companies that folks may not have heard of, but if you look at the most valuable companies on earth today, 8 of the 10 of these companies, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, NVIDIA, Tesla, Meta, TSMC, 8 of the 10 companies explicitly say that they're all in on AI, and AI is a key part of their innovation strategy moving forward. In fact, the other 2 have also, but the non-tech companies. So in your book, you talk about what it means for a company to be organizational learning machine. Can you expand on the requirements that the culture of a company and the leadership of a company needs to have in place in order to have a learning machine atmosphere?
Sure. I mean, it's, we think of machine learning, and certainly that's an important component of it, but these companies are experimenting with AI, trying to put it into production, trying to get value, just constantly trying to improve. So one great example is DBS Bank, which is the largest bank in Southeast Asia, based in Singapore. They started experimenting in the early days of AI. They tried out IBM Watson. It didn't work so well. They tried a couple of projects from the Singapore National Research Agency. They didn't work. But the CEO, Piyush Gupta, said, no, this is important to us. We're going to keep trying it out. They started spreading out the use of AI around the company. He would fund projects to do almost anything with AI and human resources, call center, et cetera, et cetera. They developed a fantastic call center application for their digital bank in India. They don't have branches, so they encourage people to communicate with them electronically. And just the relentlessness, every time somebody calls, they try to figure out, why did we screw up there? Why did they call us instead of using the app? And using data science in order to address these issues, just relentless pursuit of AI as a way to change their business. I think that's what organizational learning machine really refers to.
It's amazing. Ray, you're on mute.
We're also seeing like this big shift as we go from AI driven to AI fueled. You guys are talking about this. This AI fueled transition is really important, and you're hitting like non-technical departments, right? HR departments, for example. Mm-hmm. Why are they so important in enabling this capability, and where do you see them in terms of helping companies with the transition to get to this AI fueled state?
Yeah, I think you kind of said it very artfully that. We're now essentially seeing AI go beyond just the realm of the data science group. It's actually become mainstream, whether we recognize it or not. I mean, ChatGPT and generative AI is now in the public consciousness, but that doesn't necessarily mean that AI has not necessarily been mainstream. AI has actually transcended the data science group or an AI center of excellence in organizations, and frankly has become pervasive in every aspect of an organization, whether it's HR, supply chain, finance, legal, as well as if you happen to be kind of a manufacturer, how the factory is set up and the concept of a smart factory. If you happen to be a life sciences company, we now essentially have AI that fuels R&D, digitizes clinical trials, automates regulatory submission, and derives the necessary insights for the purposes of sales and distribution when it comes to kind of the commercial aspect of the life sciences value chain. So it has essentially gone beyond the prerogative of a few scientists to essentially becoming the prerogative of the business managers, of the business executives, and the business workers that are the heart and soul of many of these different organizations. And that's the whole concept of becoming AI fueled, where every product, every service, every interaction, every form of work, workflow, task, and activity has elements of essentially AI capabilities, whether it happens to be machine learning to identify patterns and correlate data, whether it happens to be deep learning for deriving inferences, or now more and more, whether it happens to be generative AI, which ultimately is going to be able to generate human-like cognitive function.
I work for a public cloud SaaS company. It's a 24-year-old company that was founded in 1999.
Yes, we see Mark Benioff's book cover right behind
Yes,
you.
yes. Not just because he's a great boss, but it's actually a really good book. And the first 10 years of the company, challenging dominant logic in that your most important data, customer data, can be somewhere in the cloud, there was a lot of folks that were skeptical about it, literally for the first decade of the company. The narrative started with trying to assure people that cloud is a good thing and it is secure and it is scalable. So that today, as you and Nitin are advising CEOs and company leaders, I'm sure some are still skeptical about going all in AI. What's the misunderstanding? What do you help them better understand in order for them to realize that this is the electricity for business for the next 100 years? And if you ignore it, you're going to be in the dark and you're not going to be able to compete. You're not going to be able to win. So how much calories are you two burning in terms of facing the skepticism, given folks just wrote a letter that said, hey, we should slow down for 6 months progress in this space because we're not sure about the outcomes. Tell us the conversations that you're having with CEOs.
Yeah, and can you be half-assed with AI? I'm just kidding.
That's our next book for the company that don't have the gut to go all in.
So I can reference a kind of few of the conversations that we tend to have with CEOs and the C-suite. Let's acknowledge there is an element of fear. There's an element of fear, and frankly, one of your previous guests even talked about many of the risk elements. But here's what I would say as a student of history. 200 years plus back, there was a lot of fear around a new invention that took place. And the fear was around if essentially a quote-unquote machine that was invented is going to take over humanity, how are we going to value our worth? And if we can't essentially sweat and earn a good day's labor, then who are we as humans? That machine, an invention, was the steam engine. It gave birth to civilization as we know today. And it was the catalyst for the Industrial Revolution. The same type of kind of fear has permeated at every seminal moment in our civilization.
True.
With respect to the calculator, with respect to the personal computer, with respect to kind of the first wave of digitization, with respect to moving data to the cloud that you kind of just referred. Every time in the seminal moment, there is fear in the mix. But as the steam engine ultimately was responsible for literally, I would say, mechanizing human energy production, AI is slowly and steadily mechanizing human cognitive production. It will be part and parcel of essentially what we are going to be augmented by, what we are going to be embracing, what we are going to be using, and what is going to be the basis of differentiation and competition. It could take a generation, but we also have to remember the next generation that comes up becomes a native generation in that particular technology. Same way that our kids are now essentially kind of native iPhone users or smartphone users, and probably get an iPhone and a smartphone the moment they're born.
Nitin, that was poetry. That was awesome. What a great answer. Great answer. Clearly, you've been having this conversation with a lot of CEOs.
I have since over the last couple of months, I've talked to a lot of organizations who are getting a little nervous about things. And I'm nervous, frankly. I was never that nervous before. But when I see the power of some of these generative tools, I think geez, we could use some regulation here. Nobody in Washington, at least, seems to have a clue about how to regulate this stuff. It does make me a bit nervous, no offense to your previous guest, but a few very large companies seem to be driving, the future of humankind here. So I think that we need to, I don't think that a 6-month pause would be terribly helpful, but I do think we need to think very carefully about what this means for the future of humankind and how we're going to make sure that it's aligned with our goals and values.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, no, definitely we're saying that. And of course, tech policy, technology and tech policy are often so far behind. And in this case, it's only going to get further behind before we actually understand the implications. So definitely a lot of things that we have to look at over time. So very, very awesome book. This book came out, I believe, in January this year. Check it out. All In on AI. Tom Davenport and Nitin Mittal, How Smart Companies Win Big with Artificial Intelligence. You can follow Tom at TDAV and Nitin at NMITTAL Analytic. So thanks a lot for being on the show and happy Friday.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I'm all in. And I look forward to sharing the book and insights with the folks that I collaborate with. Our next guest is our theory is we bring the cleanup hitter who ends up hitting a grand slam with his wisdom and his shared knowledge. We've been trying to get him on the show for many months, and so it's our privilege to have Andy Thurai. His last name ends with AI. Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research. Andy is an accomplished IT executive, strategist, advisor, enterprise architect, and evangelist for more than 25 years of experience in our architectural leadership positions at companies like IBM, Intel, BMC, Nortel, Oracle. So he's had incredible legacy at large companies. He's written over 100 articles on emerging technologies topics for publications such as Forbes, The New Stack, AI World, Venture, Beat, DevOps, GigaOM, and Wired. His field of interest and expertise include AI ops, IT ops, observability, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud edge, and other enterprise software. You can find a lot about his thinking and his blogs and his thought leadership at The Field CTO, FIELDCTO.com. You can also follow him on Twitter with his name, ANDYTHURAI. Welcome, Andy, to DisrupTV.
Great to be on with the big guys.
Thank you.
Andy, it's great to have you
I'm
here.
still trying to convince Ray that cloud is a good thing, but yes, big
Dude,
guys.
I'm all on proud. No, I was kidding. So yeah, no, it's amazing, right? I mean, we're seeing a massive shift here. This is an area you cover. I know you cover ML ops heavily, as well as other areas of AI, but productionizing is hard. It's not an easy thing, right? And you have lots of reasons why this is not easy. Let's talk about that so people get a grasp, right? Because we have executives like a couple of weeks back, we had someone that was very, very concerned about privacy and privacy data, and they don't store any data. And they came to us and said, "Hey, it'd be great. We're going to jump into AI." And I'm like, "Using what? You have no data, right?" So, but that's just the beginning of it. There are like other areas that you talk about, from the models and drift and governance. Let's go there.
Yeah, no, well, that's a vast topic, right? On what we want to talk about. But again, when it comes down to the machine learning models and AI models, one of the major concerns that a lot of companies have is that, in spite of their major investments, a lot of the models don't make it into production. You'd be surprised. The estimate is that anywhere between 50 to 80% of the models don't make it into production. So the companies are a little bit hesitant about, what do I do to fix that, right? The surveys, if you look at that, depending on who you listen to, it's all over the place. But there are a lot of issues that come with that, right? Things like, creating a model is just one piece of it. How do you monitor a drift? How do you monitor the actual models itself in production? How do you monitor the model governance? I can go on and on, but there are like so many issues there. And a lot of companies are coming up with the MLOps platforms to solve some of those issues, which is the report I'm working on now, as Ray, that, how companies can efficiently not only produce models faster, that's an easier issue, which a lot of companies have solved already. But how do you move it into production? And how do you keep it in production at a very high accuracy rate? For example, one of this company I was talking to, an insurance company, he was saying, Andy, just creating a model and putting it in production is only one part of the puzzle. What I'm worried about is that when the model decays, I need to know when to pull the model to retrain. Otherwise, it can hurt our business. And the simplest example I can give you would be, for example, if I were to go from point A to point B using Uber, if it costs only $10, if it gives me a $10, I'll take it. But if they price it at $80 or price it at 80 cents, that's going to hurt their business either way, because either they'll lose business or a lot of people will use it and they'll not pay for it, right?
So in my career, I saw the birth of NOC, Network Operations Center, as networks became more complex and security became more difficult. I saw SOC, Security Operations Center.
Yep.
I'm not sure how many of our audience understand AOps, so AI ops or ML ops. Can you explain what is an AI ops? How many of the Fortune 1000 companies have AI ops, and where does it sit? Who's responsible for it? Is it fragmented through the various lines of business where the service organization, the marketing, sales, commerce, HR, each have members that belong to, or is this part of IT? Give us a little bit of understanding of what these terms mean.
Wow, that's a loaded question. So the term generally XOps, right? Whether it's data ops, ML ops for that matter, or any of the ops, even IT ops, when you say that, it's all about doing something to improve that particular operation. So, for example, if you are to use ML ops, it's about using the solution to improve your machine learning operations. Same with the data ops, using that solution to improve your data operations. But unfortunately, the AIOps term were coined by somebody who didn't understand the space properly years ago. That AI ops is about using AI in IT operations. That's about the reverse of it, not towards it, right?
Got it.
But anyways, the term has become so popular, so everybody is using it. But the bottom line is that, AI ops is about taking all the data, about the observability, right? So in the cloud ops and IT ops areas, take all of the data and help you make meaning out of it. In a simplistic term, that's what AI ops means.
Okay. And how many companies have this capability?
The AIOps capability, the solution providers?
AI, ML, folks that are continuously looking to refine their models, improve their models, and then have those services covered across the enterprise. So sales, service, marketing, commerce, all these major customer-facing lines of business are benefiting from their work.
Okay. So AIOps, again, is about taking the observability data and improving your IT operations, basically. So there are about 60 or 70 companies I'm tracking that offers the AIOps solutions. And the MLOps is about, how do you productionize and keep the models in production with the right precision without a drift. Initially, when I started, there were about 30, maybe 40 companies that I was tracking. And matter of fact, I get about 2 to 3 emails a week saying that, hey, look like we have a short list on MLOps. We are not included. And why shouldn't we be included? Some asking nicely, some demanding it. So I have a list of about probably 100, 120 companies in the MLOps space, supposedly.
Wow. And these, are they consortium events, conferences where you see these folks sharing best practices, or is it siloed within each business?
There are a few, actually. I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy, Dimitrios. He has the MLOps community. That's actually one of the largest communities in the world. I think close to 1 million ML machine learning practitioners part of that community.
Wow.
So it's pretty big. And then they also have actually a conference in San Francisco, I believe, next week. So that's, there are a few best practices around the world. Some of the open source consortiums do that as well. But then there are a lot of vendor conferences. If you go to, for example, Splunk is one. There are a few others. They all have conferences in which these solutions are part of their conference and area of it.
Yes. Yep. Great,
Yeah,
great.
no, we definitely see that, right? And this is a really hot area as we go from operating machine scale and then operating with human scale, right?
Yep.
Those two things have to come together, right? And there's a lot of work that's heavy lifting that's designed there. Where is that future of ML ops? Like, is that an area we're going to see less and less people involved, more and more machines, or is it because we're creating so many models so quickly that there's still going to be a lot of roles for humans to be playing that?
There is, but again, as some of your previous guests were suggesting, there are going to be different roles, right? I mean, in the past, there are certain things. Your data scientist is one of the most expensive resource, as you know, and you'll be surprised to hear that the actual work done in creating models by a data scientist is maybe 20%, and that's what a lot of these companies are trying to solve, right? I don't want to take my most expensive resource and then have them waste time in doing things that's not necessary. So can I do things like data preparation? Can I build a data lake that's unstructured, structured, combined, that is going to help? And there are a lot of companies came up with doing auto labeling on auto annotation, because that's an area where the Turks were really good at it. And you can't, until now, you can't do real auto labeling because you need the human subjective knowledge to go and, okay, this is a dog, this is a cat, I got to annotate the label. And that's how the AI models learn, because if you don't tell the model doesn't know anything about it, right? You could potentially feed wrong things. The model will learn wrong things, That's one of the problems with the reinforcement AI, right? So auto labeling is an area. And then there's a huge market around synthetic data that's picking up, meaning they're only the bigger companies can't spend enough time and money to get the actual real world data to train the models. But what about the others? There is a need for it. How do I train if I don't have enough data? So you got to fill the blanks, right? I mean, just because you have a certain volume of data doesn't mean that you have the right data, right? So how do I fill up the gaps in that area? So synthetic data is going to be another huge area. So data preparation, synthetic data, labeling, annotation, data prep ops, all of those things are going to be huge from the data scientist side of things. How do I make my data scientists produce models faster? And then after the models are produced, or they do experimentation and then track the experimentation, have a model versioning, the whole 9 yards. How do I move the models into production? What do I do? The pipeline problem, because if you look at the current DevOps folks, they don't understand what a model is. They don't have a mechanisms to get that into production. So MLOps is, to an extent, a portion of the MLOps rather, is an equivalent of your DevOps. So how do I get the models into production faster? And the third component element of it is, having a proper governance and security and monitoring the model. If it is going way too far, either this side or that side, how do I bring it back or pull the model back to retrain it? So every one of this area have needs, and there are new companies emerging. So in the future, it's going to be have the machines do the thing, but I'll help the machines to do the thing.
Makes a lot of sense.
So you've been advising in this space for a decade, and from 2015 to November of last year, you must have had inquiries and clients wanting your advice on generative AI. And I say 2015 because that's when OpenAI was launched. Then November comes and there's prompt access to the world, and within a month, 100 million users. What percentage of your advising today, as compared to October of last year, how much of a shift in terms of clients asking you specifically to guide them in understanding the importance, uses, best practice all around this chat GPT or generative AI space? Has it been a 10x increase, 100x increase, or what has your world turned into in the last 5 months?
He's free. He's got a lot of free time.
Is the answer 100% allowed? Meaning 100% of the customers who are coming in they ask, how do I use chat GPT in my whatever I have, right? Because it has become, look, at the end of the day, chat GPT is probably the, how shall I put that, the most popular, the highest traction gathering POC ever, right? It's still a demo, in a sense. Not only they enable the API access for enterprises users and stuff, it has got its own ton of limitations. But at the end of the day, ChatGPT is the most successful POC that anybody can ever dream of. And then what it has showcased to people is that given all these issues about the creating the models, maintaining the models, moving the models, all we talked about, it showed to the people, regardless of all the issues you have, you can explore your potential opportunities. It exposed that to the business folks who doesn't have the IT knowledge on how you can do certain things using AI. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still generative AI, meaning that it can create text and create image and whatnot. It's not a decision intelligence systems and it's not knowledge systems. But even that has, turned the world upside down, that people are like, oh, if I can have a help from this, I can do whatever it may be without even thinking. And one of your guests talked about earlier on the show, Samsung unfortunately uses, and all of that information is captured now and it's available in the public data that it's exposed. And I wrote about that in my blog. So you got to be careful about what you're using this for. Using that as a real POC to find out what it can do is different than, giving you real life, real world data, proprietary data, especially.
Yeah, our first guest talked about, it's not enterprise ready. Italy just banned the use of the technology because there are concerns in terms of leaked private information. But, read the Accenture Technology Vision 2023 report. And my takeaway was that these foundational models are so advanced, accelerating at such incredible pace.
Yep.
And over time, not worrying about in-house resident experts that can create these foundational models, but making sure that the data you feed into the foundational models are with partners that you trust, and you can really load balance how you go to market without heavy investments in-house on AI resident experts. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts in terms of, a year from now, where will we be in terms of our cautious and skeptical use of these technologies in enterprise? Do you think a year, 2, 5? How quickly will we have less angst about using this technology?
And before we go, I want you to address the blog post you just put up, which is really about what should we really put a pause on AI? So
look, I come from the more of emerging tech innovation world, and my blog entire concept is about don't kill innovation, right? And that's the topic of the blog too. Don't kill innovation. Don't put a moratorium. There are a few issues with that particular initiative that they have going on. They are like, oh, let's put a 6-month pause. Then what? After that, what happens after 6 months? The governance and security and regulation will just all of a sudden pop up. Yeah, I mean, and even if you put a pause, first of all, how are you going to enforce it? Just because you say that, hey, everybody stop, let's not do it, is everybody's going to listen to you? And let's assume that it's US-based companies that listen to you. How are you going to enforce companies like China or countries like China and others who are, Europe is actually at a very big pace to, building AI, solutions and whatnot. How are you going to enforce that on them? So basically you're restricting yourselves when others are catching up or advancing than you. Yeah. So I don't believe in killing innovation, but I do believe that the regulation, governance, and security needs to catch up, especially security. If your IP knowledge is exposed, you just experiment for the sake of experiment. But when you're putting it in the enterprise, have the right things, because it's as if you're putting information out in the public. And when you do that, you got to have the safety measures in place. You got to be very careful.
Yeah, we definitely do. If you don't have that in place or guardrails, we're going to be in trouble. It's some of the AI ethics we talked about in the past was, right, if you begin a process with a human, you better end the process with a human. Otherwise, the machines will cut us out. Like, we are super inefficient. No, I'm just kidding.
No, actually, human in the loop is one of the things I always like, because, at the end of the day, you don't want the machines, even though jokingly you say that pull the plug, you don't want the machines to really pull the plug. You want a human to pull the plug regardless.
Come on, the kill switch engineer, the hottest job in the world of AI, right? The best
about 5 years ago, Kai-Fu Lee warned us that the superpower race between countries like US and China will be ultimately ahead because they're not going to kill innovation. Now, it may be at the cost of privacy and citizen rights, but at the end of the day, dumbification of AI is something that will slow down its capabilities, perhaps at the detriment of society. And that's a debate you can have. Certainly companies like mine have invested in ethical and humane use of software leadership where at design level discussions, before the first line of code is exercised, you think about and you reflect on what possible outcomes this technology could bring, and will it help or hurt society? And our first guest was a member of a company that you recall 2.5, 3 years ago suspended a release of AI capabilities because it felt that at that time it was too dangerous because of how accurate the false information was being portrayed with embedded statistics. And it felt real, even though it wasn't. So, big companies do take responsibilities, but it's something that I think will challenge us for many, many years to come.
That's the key. Accountability and responsibility of the companies. Because right now, if you use ChatGPT's whatever answer it's giving, or some of the solutions out there, the LLMs and stuff, you're on your own. I mean, recently the Copilot got sued because the code was used by someone else, and the Getty is suing some of the image companies.
Stable diffusion.
Trust has to be your number one core value, no question.
Accountability and trust, absolutely, absolutely.
Get ready for massive exponential disinformation. Anyways, so we're here with Andy Thurai, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, one of our own. He needs to change his Twitter handle, say ANDYTHUR capital AI. You can follow Twitter there, and more importantly, catch him on the Constellation Research blog. Thanks a lot, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andy.
Good talking to you guys.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. I wish I was an augmented reality expert, because AR would have been great for mine.
I know. Vala Afshar. AR.
Ray, what an amazing segment for extraordinary experts. Enhancing our awareness of the importance of this technology, with someone who's been pioneering this technology at one of the most advanced companies on earth, and two co-authors that are legends, and driving Deloitte's strategy, and certainly one of the most influential IT thought leaders in the world. And of course, Andy at the end, talking about some of the values, creating value, and the principles that go beyond the technology. Your thoughts, your summary of the last hour, please.
Look, there's a lot of interest in AI and generative AI. We've gone through many AI winters in the past. Those were limited by our compute power. They're limited by the amount of data we had, the tools and techniques that were there. We're definitely somewhere here looking at these GPT-4, GPT-5 language models that are within us. But there is a challenge that we're all going to face, which is really the amount of data we need. The entire human corpus is now put into place, and we're going to find out we don't have enough data to make or get to the level of precision for the decisions we need to get to. And it was interesting talking to everybody here. I mean, with Behshad, right, it was really understanding how far this technology has gone. You notice that Google has taken a much more conservative approach to this, instead of, running out there saying, hey, we've got this, right? I think they've had to think through this issue a little bit more, a little bit longer. And you could see that in the way Behshad was looking at specific use cases, specific data sets within AI and CX. When you look at the book All In on AI, I think this is now a boardroom issue. Right. I think boardrooms around the country around the world are all thinking about where AI fits, how they're going to deploy it, how do they even get started. If they don't even have basic data management strategies in place, they're going to find themselves with massive technical debt. This move from data decisions, getting to next best action, and where we are in the world of AI is going to play a role. I mean, it's an exponential advantage if you can actually achieve decision velocity. Right. We've talked about that. Humans make decisions, snap decision pretty quickly. It takes us forever to get it out of our system. Machines are going to make hundreds, even thousands of decisions per second, and that's an exponential advantage that we'll see. And so this all-in on AI is really important for organizations to read about, to understand what they need to be prepared from a process, technology, and culture level. And really, the work that we're doing here at Constellation with Andy, thinking about where AI is going forward, I mean, I think it's important for companies to understand that there are guidelines that we'll have, guardrails that are going to be important, especially as you get into projects. AI and ML ops is a great place to get started. And of course, we've done significant research there. So that's the rundown.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, next week, Ray, we're going to have Kathy Henkel, Chief Metaverse Officer and founder at Journey and founder at Verslux, Cecilia Fleshaker, CMO of Verint, and Elise Litt, award-winning marketeer, mentor, best-selling author, podcaster, personal branding expert, and founder of Leave Your Mark, a multimedia brand and consultancy firm. So 3 extraordinary women next week teaching us about emerging technologies like the metaverse and the importance of personal branding and thought leadership. If it's Friday, it's Disrupt TV. Thank you for watching episode 317. We'll see you next week on episode 318 of Disrupt TV. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Passover and Ramadan. Take care.
Yes, all of that.